I'm just leaving you there with that wonderful picture, David. What do you think of that?
Fucking scary.
It's David! I haven't seen you for more than 2 minutes.
I look forward to.
I'm wearing a shirt for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. That.
Hey, see those baps. Good afternoon. No, good morning, David. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, very well. Yourself?
Exceptional actually. It's Friday, which of course means crazy weekend coming up. Are you joining us on Kevin Ellis has this virtual piss up every Friday, doesn't
What time is that?
5 o'clock. So I'm gonna jump in on that because I'm starting to go.
Well, I'm gonna try and make that. I'm gonna be doing some extreme grooming this weekend. Oh yes.
Wrong podcast. Wrong podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Go on. Oh. What do you mean, extreme? You've gone. Oh my God. It's technical issues. You there? Yeah. Sorry, it cut off. Oh, hang on. It's telling me it's mine. Oh my God, is it mine?
Oh my God, it's you.
We can't have this. Is that all right? So
I can see you.
Okay. So you were saying extreme grooming. Explain quite quickly.
Everybody needs a haircut, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's all become clear now.
So I'm gonna try and trim some stuff. You know, get that magic inch going.
Nice. But yeah, yeah, it's all about that, isn't it? I'm going to be doing mine actually later, David, which you will see, and I think you're going to be impressed.
You're not going to go back to that do it for Dom look, are you?
I don't know. I haven't. I've got 2 options, and I'm still weighing them up. So you'll see anyway. If you do come on the piss up call, and you'll see quite clearly.
I think what is very popular and is due a comeback is the Mr. T.
Yeah,
just the bit down the middle, but you've got to leave something at the side as well.
Look at that bounce there. I'm not losing that. That's beautiful. Although I do look a bit of a buffoon, and that's not the look I'm going for, to be fair, David.
Have you watched that Tiger Man documentary on Netflix?
No, I saw it at the preview, and I thought that wasn't for me. Was I right or wrong?
It's a crazy character, completely outlandish. You need to watch at least one episode of it, just to sort of as a window into another world.
Right.
He's a guy that lives with 180 tigers. It's a bit
180.
Yeah.
180.
Yeah. And there's a bit where one of the tigers takes off the arm of one of the people that works for him, and she sat there interviewed with the stump. And she's talking about it as if, you know, so well, I tripped over the photocopier today. It's just part and parcel of my job. So get on it, because also you could probably take some hairstyle inspiration from that guy, because you like the bit at the front here, right?
Isn't he got a hook?
Why don't you go with the mullet? With the mullet?
Yeah, I don't think the mullet works really, does it? Has it ever?
With the trailer park demographic, it might do.
Never mind. Well, look, today we've got the wonderful Ian Preston from Preston Baker on. He's joining us at about 20 minutes anyway, is the countdown. So be ready for him. I've got some quite interesting things to discuss with him around their financial services department, which doesn't always go together, is it? Always dead interesting, but it is anyway. So that'll be good. What news?
Do you want me to pitch in and say anything?
Yeah, I do. Of course, I do. I want you to use your Frost Nixon questioning.
Simon Whale, have you read today's property industry eye news?
Do you know what? I don't think I have actually. Which is, I'm not supposed to be a journo though, am I? What's happened?
Well, I like to ask you difficult questions that you can't answer, but I'll ask you a question. Is Gary Bucker news twice in a week, or is this a slow news week?
I don't know. Is this the news that he's joined the guild?
He has, yeah. So
that's a really interesting tie-up there, isn't it? So who was it talking about saying, the equity groups finding each other there. So of course Gary's incredibly good technically there, and I think any organisation would need that, and maybe the guild and Fine and Country, would benefit from that. So, but it's quite a close tie-up, isn't it?
Well, interestingly, it talks about Gary's more magnanimous side again. So I'm going to recap, not for your benefit necessarily, but for benefit of listeners that may not have read the article.
Yep.
That eProp Services, the parent company of Fine and Country and the Guild of Property Professionals, has announced that Gary Barker, CEO of Repit, has joined the board at what is clearly a challenging time. He has waived taking any fees.
What a guy!
This is the modern reincarnation of Bob Geldof and perhaps Jesus all at the same time.
It's great that he's making such a magnanimous sign as that. Yeah. So, what's the expense? What are the expenses? £4,000 a month.
Well, I just wonder what it is. So, I mean, you know more about this group than I do. So, what do you think Gary brings to the table?
Well, they ostensibly they've been doing a lot of technology themselves. So they have. My understanding is Property Logic, which has been almost a side spin-off to provide technical solutions, marketing solutions for the guild members, and I think Fine and Country as well there. And I don't think, some of those have been a bit hit or miss, and they could have, done with a bit of direction. And the one thing that Gary will bring to that is bringing that sort of balance in terms of understanding what's possible, what's going to be deliverable, and everything else there. So yeah, look, I mean, I think I've sat with Gary for obviously, almost a decade on the boards, and he will be a really good set of eyes to run over any projects that they've had like that. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's probably a really good move for them.
Fantastic. Well, wish him luck with that. Other news, again, and it's all the obvious stuff. But what's interesting, and we've covered this pretty much from the beginning, but that Say No to Rightmove campaign is really gathering momentum.
What's the numbers now?
Well, yesterday it was sort of over 900 on one of them. I know the other one is bubbling at about 1,200, and I think there's another one with about 400-500. So yeah. I'm sure there's going to be duplication within each of these groups. So I would say, look, you've got about a couple of thousand agents that are vocal enough to go out there on social media. We've spoken to a couple that. And Jonathan yesterday mentioned that he would lose Rightmove in a flash. Ryan Wolfenden is very firmly trying to sort of get behind the home search. So it's a very interesting time for that portal space at the moment, and it's still very much in flux.
What was it we want to call with Robert May earlier, and he called it Duopoly Friday, which I particularly liked. That sets that date in quite effectively in time now, doesn't it? Talking about obviously it was because it wasn't just Rightmove. Of course, Zoopla played their own little cards as well there, didn't it? Yeah, it's going to be fascinating watching not just all the different players that are out there at the moment. Dare I say, it's been a bit boring really the last few years, hasn't it? With just the assumed monopoly there, going about their own way. Zoopla doing more with data services, but not really at the table with the portal itself, and on the market kind of bouncing up and down, isn't it? So
it's really interesting. I can't remember which of our guests said this. It was either Ryan or Jonathan, or both of them echoed the same sentiments, but they both said that Rightmove and Zoopla, to a certain extent, and I think this is where on the market started to lose their way as well, is that they don't have the same set of values as their customers, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
It was
Ryan.
Yeah, it was Ryan. Yeah. So, and I think that's really important. I think you've gone into estate agencies over the years to try and sell your services, and I think that would be impossible if you weren't pitching for their success. So you're coming from the same place that they are.
Yeah.
And if you're unable...
Their success is your success is one of the more trite things I used to say. In fact, it's on my LinkedIn profile, but I truly believed it, you know, and anyone who saw us at any of the awards ceremonies, okay, we might have had a livener or two, but we were always as pleased to see our clients win the awards as, you know, anything we did ourselves, and that was genuine. In fact, I mean, Ian will probably say here when they won Supplier of the Year, and you know, it's only fair to say we lost our shit.
Right. So in other news,
difficult though, we had Mark Manning on the table next to us, but you know, when you're a massive whore like myself, you can't care about that sort of stuff.
Mark Manning's a fairly good home audience, though, isn't he? He's always going to be rooting.
He's
I like Mark.
He's a keeper.
So the other trend, and again, this is a lot of the news is stating the bleeding obvious this week. But so the leading story today was: is the market heading for just 1,000 new listings per week? So the figures from data marketing and analytics company Housevolt suggest that within the next week, the total new listings for properties for sales could fall as low as 1,000 a week across the whole country. And this sort of ties in very nicely to another story on I today about the land registry deposits for stamp duty, predicting that they're going to be £5 billion down this year, which is really interesting because
pretty scary.
It is extremely scary for a lot of us. But there is, if you read the discussions that are happening between agents on Facebook, a lot of agents are coming under fire for releasing new stock. So we talked about this in terms of there are clients that have to market their properties and have to upload it. But a lot of people are getting stick.
There was some real vitriol. I mean, I saw one going on where they were, you know, I think it almost turned a bit mob-like in one respect, where some of the agents were going around to empty houses. Now, okay, ignoring the main point about that there is actually a lockdown on this.
Yeah.
Is it that wrong if somebody's going to into an empty house? I find it quite hard.
You know what?
Judgmental.
I will share a conversation that I had last night with one of my colleagues, Josh. We were talking about, we've got a guest coming on the show on Monday, haven't we, Simon? Oliver James, who's just released his
fantastic. I'm really excited to see what he's doing. Yeah,
that is a very interesting thing. So Oliver's obviously thrown his weight behind video, and he's now started to provide those services to other agents. So he's got a fantastic sort of green screen studio, and very often his posts can be duplicated up and down the country anyway with very little hyperlocal reference. But if you want, he can also pepper it with hyperlocal. So we'll be talking to him on Monday. But what's interesting is that we decided to sort of beta test Oliver's services, and he did one for our our automated valuation tool. And it looks really good. It sounds really good. Ordinarily, I would be saying, right, get that online. Let's pump it out now. Let's see what sort of hits we have over the weekend. And the discussion became about whether or not it's insensitive to be going after new business right now. We are probably, as a country, this week. I mean, they warned us about it last week. We're going to start to sort of hit that very steep curve in terms of peaking, in terms of the number of cases reported, the number of deaths, and that's very much happening. This is remarkable how quickly this virus has taken hold. 2 weeks ago, I didn't know anybody that had it. Now I can name you 10 people that I know, close friends, family, that have lost somebody to it. And so it really is incredible.
Terrific, isn't it? And you're right.
And so the question is whether right now as an agent you should be doing that sort of marketing, whether you should be doing any kind of prospecting at all, or should you just be seen to be supporting the community? And I think you only can support the community at this time. And I think that although business generation is obviously important, and we all need a business to come back to, another week or two is not going to hurt the industry any more than it already has.
Yeah. No, I think everything you say there is perfectly reasonable and right, isn't it? And the problem is going to be, what feels like that, a bit like the government. How do they start to stop the self-isolation? Who's going to be picked and everything else. Is at what point is it appropriate to do business?
Absolutely. Now that I've got you on your own, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Put you on the spot. So over the years, you must have had a number of different people come up to you and go, oh, I've got a great idea for a prop tech tool. I've got a great idea for an app.
Yeah, daily, yeah.
Right, give me the worst you've heard and the best you've heard.
The worst I heard, the worst I witnessed, and it's a bit unfair because it's the the land registry do a nurturing campaign for prop tech companies.
Right.
I can't remember, it's Geo something or Geovation, I think it's called. It's a fantastic idea. They give subsidies to prop tech companies to support them at the time when they're growing, giving them a place to practice. Very Google-esque offices down in London. None of that is the issue. The issue I have with it, and things like how readily available some of these grants are, is that it does allow businesses that should be shot in the head at day one
to thrive,
to prosper and get out of there. And they should never have had this ability. I mean, just to set the scene. So what they do is every month or few months, they have a sort of Dragon's Den style approach where they, they welcome people to do pitches, and it's all very prop techy, people in dungarees, high-fiving each other and shit like that. And the one that really caught my attention, I should caveat first of all that, bless them, they were so young. They didn't look like they were virtually out of school. They were first year university students. And they were focusing on the fact that actually we've lost a lot of wildlife and nature these days. So they had created a app that's allowed through, what do you call it when you can see stuff, when it's called, bloody hell.
The AI.
Augmented reality. So augmented reality, you can walk either with an iPad or a phone like this, around your parks and that, and see virtual foxes, virtual badgers,
but
and virtual doggers probably as well. So
that's actually a thing. So right, so basically, if you go on your phone to Google on Chrome and you just Google tiger, there'll be a part of it that says meet a life-size tiger up close, and you click on view in 3D, and that will bring you up a little 3D tiger. But if you click view in your space, it will allow you to visualize a tiger in the room with you. So if I show you that, can you see that?
Yes, I can. There's a tiger in your room, David. David, run!
And you can take pictures of the kids with it. So
you've kind of ruined that by mentioning kids now. But I was going to ask you, does that work with more adult themes?
Well, I'm thinking of releasing one. Favorite porn star or something.
That fellow, that fellow in all the WhatsApp groups. You know the one I mean. God,
I know that man.
God, he's impressive.
I'd like. He must have a name, that guy.
Of course he has. Of course he has. Don't go there. Don't go there. Look, of course he has. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I'll message you afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Afterwards. Yeah. So that was. And I still don't understand if there was a commercial thing there. What I would say is it got one of the loudest rounds of applause on the day ever. So. I think it had about 200 grand spent on it as well, which was the most mortifying. When they sit in Dragon's Den and they just do that, I just say, don't pour anything else into it anyway.
Interesting. Right. So our guest is joining us.
Yeah, he's going to be in a minute. So a couple of things I saw in there. Did you see somebody who was jailed for 6 months for coughing or stroke spitting at a police officer, even though he didn't actually have coronavirus? So apparently that's a very new strict rulings, isn't it? So I think he was done for common assault, actually. Yeah, I
did see that, and it's it's a real violation nowadays, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Well, I think one of the more disturbing things, if you want to go down the whole police state thing, is that they have virtually now got the most extensive powers, the police, you know, to do pretty much anything, stop and search, all that sort of stuff. So I am hoping that on the other side they will, of course, hand back these, you know, these powers.
Oh, of course.
They're always very good like that, aren't they? Dictatorships. So yeah, that's slightly worrying. What else was there? Did you know that we always think now this is truly a worldwide pandemic? Guess how many countries don't have it yet?
Got to be only about 5 or 6.
19, yeah. I mean, admittedly, first of all, the thing that jumped to my attention was North Korea. Can you imagine him? There's nothing going on here.
I saw this lovely little, did I send it to you? This lovely little sort of WhatsApp meme that went around. Reported cases in North Korea, 12 o'clock, 1. Deaths, 12:01, 1. Cases, 0. You know, it just kept going like this.
Yeah.
1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0.
Yes. I'll tell you the other thing. John kindly gave us the excuse to do Bastard of the Week, didn't you? Which we do need to do.
Yes.
I'm not even going to consult you on this, David, I'm afraid, because it goes to a group. And it's not a group, it's a group that have been bastards before. But let me just read you out the headline and you'll get it straight away. Oil prices march higher as OPEC calls for emergency meeting on Monday. Now, this is, you know who OPEC are. These are the people that obviously control oil supply. Because there has been a world, obviously, the drop off in production and oil's at a low price.
Yeah, about that. People are not using as much of it.
Yeah, so they're gonna slash the production so that oil prices will start to rocket again. So what we really need on top of all of this is massively increased fuel bills, isn't it? So yeah, bastards of the week goes to OPEC. May you rot in hell.
Just as the Earth is repairing its own ozone layer because of we're not obviously burning as much fuel as we normally do.
It genuinely, if you were going to get all hippie-ish, it genuinely, I mean, what was it? Venice, suddenly the canals were clear. They actually have fish and dolphins in it. I mean, it's just some of the most batshit mental stuff you can see around the world, isn't it? Sky at night, I mean, is just, you can actually see stars for the first time, which, of course, you and I, living in Manchester, don't normally get to see. Not those sorts of stars, anyway.
We get to see rain clouds a lot, don't we?
We do, but that's the choice we made, so you really shouldn't be miserable about it.
Why did we make that choice?
What choice?
Well, I know I grew up here. Why are you here?
The simple truth is, I came north. I was going to come to the northwest anyway because of the Liverpool connotation. I was rejected by Liverpool University and Polytechnic. 9 out of the 10 applications I had there, and they wouldn't let me do economics. All they offered me back via clearance was maritime studies. So I didn't really fancy being put off.
You would have done very well now that the oceans are clearing up.
Just think what a different world it would have been with me on the high seas.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Yeah. So, and then I genuinely, I've always, in my head, been a chippy northerner, even though, obviously, having been born in Kuwait, I'm probably the most southern out of anyone.
Because a lot of the property events that take place tend to happen in London, don't they? Yeah. When are we going to see somebody get behind the Northern Powerhouse and do
the Northern Shithouse? The problem with it is, it's not like it hasn't been attempted before. So they used to have the old, I don't know if you remember them, the property computer shows. Relocation Agent Network has had the odd show up here because they used to move it around. And the problem is that you actually still, even though people say, can you move it around and why is it always London? It's actually normally far easier to get to London. So you look at somewhere like Newcastle, if you have it in Manchester, it takes longer to get to Manchester from Newcastle than it does down there. And frankly, a lot of people do, if it's one of those weekend shows, they like to, tie it in with a couple of days and probably a weekend out. So it's always done with the most. I think the Esters were looking at it as well, potentially, whether you could have a smaller batch.
90 did something, didn't he? So when property...
a few road shows, they come down from conferences down to just down to road shows. So I think that's certainly the place. And I mean, not being funny as well, the you haven't got anything like Grosvenor House, have you, for the sort of facilities and everything else up north that you have, obviously, that you're spoilt with down south. So, yes, it's annoying, and you have to do that kind of.
But when we get out of quarantine and we have the Kerfuffle end of season party to celebrate, we're doing it in Manchester, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sorry, that is one bit of news, isn't it? So the latest news is, isn't it? Well, I believe now that the lockdown's going to be down till June. Is that right?
Well, at least I don't think it's been officially confirmed, but I think.
Well, I had Boris on the line, and he said it was. So,
well, I think the June date is that 12-week period for those people that are absolutely on that shielding list.
Oh, sorry, because what I was being selfish about was, of course, my birthday's on June the 1st. So all I was trying to tie it in with is, if it's possible, are you there? You just stopped. Oh, don't say it's gone again. No! David, come back to me. Hello.
Hey, you're back again.
We've been quite lucky, haven't we, with that to date? No, did you get the gist of that? My birthday's on the 1st of June, so I was a bit worried about obviously that could be the most spectacular, I was going to say coming out ceremony, but that's the wrong, I'm not ready for that yet.
I think it's going to last beyond June is the honest truth. So I think you're going to have your birthday party on Zoom or house party.
Oh God, this is really going. Where's that? Are you there? Sorry, it just really, really buggered up. I'm just trying to find out. Ian's just trying to say it. Ian sent me one at the moment. That's not going to work, is it? Let's just find him again there. What's the meeting ID? Talk amongst yourself. I'm just going to find the meeting ID for Ian. Here we go.
Hey.
It's not very sturdy at the moment, is it? We're going to have to try that.
It's crap. This is probably peak traffic time.
Peak traffic.
Did you have you, before our highbrow guest comes on the show? Have you been on Pornhub recently?
Been what?
On Pornhub recently?
No, of course not. Why would I?
Well, Pornhub have stolen my idea. So 1 second, if I can bring this up. You see that?
Help flatten the curve.
Help flatten the curve. As seen on the Kerfuffle podcast, my friends.
No, that's great. So we've said thanks for, by the way, for creating that. And I hope it was actually just a Photoshop thing, because it seems to have gone viral. You've obviously already done on me on Pornhub. What I haven't asked you yet is, am I actually on Pornhub? Because that is a bucket list.
You wish you were actually on Pornhub.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, it's taking me a while to get on the right call. There you go.
That's so. Don't worry about that. We're having a few problems ourselves. It is a little bit. It's a little bit up and down at the moment, but that's the nature of it, isn't it? How are you, Ian? You all right?
He keeps disappearing.
The technology man.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Great. Have you got me?
Is he completely frozen for you as well, Ian?
It has. To be honest, it's quite nice actually.
You know what? This is the best time when it's quiet. Amazing. Should we get a few minutes?
Oh my God.
Oh, this is too much.
What?
It's like a really bad Andy Warhol.
This is the show. This is the show where there's two whales. Oh my God! Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna go away.
Simon.
We could have several hours of this.
It's all right. I'm on a different bouncing. I'm all right. Can you got me now?
I've got you now.
I don't know why I feel that going on a different laptop will work, but given it's using the same network. But anyway, we'll try that one. We'll try that one now. Sorry, Ian. How are you? You okay?
Excellent, thank you very much. How are you, Simon?
Good. Well, yeah, it always feels a bit weird asking that at a time like this, isn't it? Because clearly not a lot of people aren't doing particularly well. But I was mentioning, obviously, you've been long-term clients of. Oh my God!
Oh, this is too much. It's like a really bad Andy Warhol.
This is the show. This is the show where there's two Whaleys. Oh my God! Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. I'm gonna. Go away. Okay. Hopefully that's done it. Okay. Is he still like that? Obviously, Ian, we've known each other for a number of years. You're obviously good clients at my previous company for us. Sorry, not supplier of the year. That was me. I forgot to say that. You've won Estate Agent of the Year at the Sunday Times and EA Masters, or was it EA Masters?
It was EA Masters that we won the overall award, and various bits and bats at the Sunday Times.
I said it was a really good one for me, because I was standing applauding. I looked down to see Mark Manning next to me, and he was. If I could have got the video for you, you'd have enjoyed that.
Well, I cheered very loudly for him when he won the overall Lettings Award. So
you were very good, actually. That makes you better than him as well, because he's. But one of the interesting things as well, which came back, was that pretty much year in, year out, you've been winning or getting placed for Best Financial Services. And why that came to the fore this week, we were on a call, one of Peter Knight's groups, and I think SJ was talking as well, was talking about how obviously there ain't a huge amount of listings to be won at the moment, but that you have been focusing quite heavily on the financial services side of things and having some success there. And I wanted, it would be really interesting to get your feedback as to how you made that happen, and how you and what your experience is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty tough gig. So we are fortunate in that we are positioned to have a financial services business which works alongside the estate agency. And by financial services, it's mortgages and protection. So life insurance, income protection, critical illness cover, and general insurance. So we don't do pensions or investments. It's not that type of IFA type business. And so, yeah, so we've just tried to leverage that really. When all of this kicked off, and because things are moving so quickly, I don't know about you, but I find it really hard to keep track of time about how long ago it was. But like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we were sort of sitting down and trying to understand which businesses are going to do well and which businesses are going to do badly. And unfortunately, my business is definitely in the camp which will do badly out of this. I don't think there's any doubt. And the question is, how badly? And we built various models which try to work out what percentage downturn we'll have, what the impact will be on pipeline, how long that money will take to come through. And effectively, we're probably looking at a £2 million revenue loss this year, we think. And that's from a total turnover of around £5 million. So a 40% reduction in revenues. And there's a huge amount of support out there, not least of which being the furloughing scheme, which I know that most agencies are taking a lot of advantage out of. But even with cost cuts and even being really dynamic and, you know, wiping out profits and racking up losses and taking on debt, there's still big gaps which are left for most businesses. And I think there are probably 3 strands to our strategy. So one is revenue mitigation, which is what you're talking about, which is protection. 2 is cost cutting. So actually being really, really dogged on cost cutting. And then the third one is maximizing the support that you can get from the government. So I think those 3 things are the 3 things which we've focused really hard on. So I'm happy to chat about any of those.
Yeah, can we jump to number 2, just because I'm biased, and supplier management is obviously the core thing of what we do at Kerfuffle. Estee said you'd been really quite tough but fair. I think you've really looked at that supplier ecosystem of your own at the moment, really been quite ruthless if it's not delivering, but also been very, you know, some people are, for example, which I can't stand, has been just cutting off direct debits and then avoiding the calls, you know, to the suppliers. You've been very forthright, haven't you? You've had very clear conversations with people and just explained the position. And on the whole, I think they've been quite good, haven't they, to be fair?
Yeah, I mean, so again, we're still, I mean, the job I was doing just before you called is working on the numbers. about what all of these discounts or deferments or reductions are actually going to look like. But we think, back of a fag packet, if you include staffing rebates from the furloughing scheme, we're up to about £1.1 million off a £4 million cost base this year now, in terms of totals. The most interesting conversations, which might be relevant to other people, is actually the conversation I had with our landlords. So we have got 8 different units, and if you think about a landlord contract being like the one where I would imagine you're least likely to be able to make progress, because you've got a lease.
Contractual
the fact that
obligation.
whether exactly, 100%. You don't have any wiggle room. But I personally did it, and I called every single one of our landlords on Wednesday and had some really frank conversations with them, and just suggested to them that I wouldn't. I run a property management business myself. I would not want to be finding new commercial tenants in 3 months' time. And there are basically 2 routes for our business. One is we can aggressively manage our cost base to mitigate the catastrophic loss of revenue which we're having now, or we can rack up debt to the HMRC, so we can defer our PAYE payments, we can defer our VAT, and at the end of that, we can fold the company, buy it back from a pre-pack, wipe off all the debts, not pay any of our suppliers, and reform in some way, shape, form, or manner. And those are fundamentally the 2 choices which a lot of the business will have. And I just said to them, I said, listen, I want a quarter of free rent. I'm not going to be able to use your premises. And if you can't deliver that for me, then you will much more likely to end up with option 2. So work with me. And I don't want a deferment. So I'm not interested in kicking the can down the road, because again, PAYE, VAT, alone our company will end up owing at the end of this 3-month period £250,000 to HMRC, which has to be repaid under the current arrangements by the end of this tax year. So you're talking in 12 months, we've then got to, and again, the way that our business works, and again, I'm not telling anyone that they don't know, is if we start listing houses at the end of June, when let's imagine that the current arrangements last for 3 months, we start listing houses, then we'll start selling them 2 to 3 weeks later. We'll build a pipeline, which will take about 4 months to turn on current pipeline turn rates. Revenue levels aren't going to get back to anything like normal until January, December of this year. And that's assuming that we're not in a horrendous recession / depression. Yeah. So the reality is the idea that we're going to suddenly be like flushed with cash in the second half of this year is a complete nonsense. If anything, we'll have more money now than we'll have in October, November, December, before, because of course we have to unfurlough the staff to be able to list the houses, to generate revenue, to start that. So actually the real pain point is not going to occur in the next 3 months, in my opinion, from the modelling I've done. The real pain point is going to be October, November, December, and that's going to be the point where companies will have them. So that makes perfect sense. So deferment. Yeah, I'm not interested in deferments. I'm interested in real reductions right now. And so far, one landlord's come back to me and has offered us a rent-free period. One of the managing agents, and I'm confident we'll get more, but one of the managing agents wrote me this wonderful email talking about being in partnership with us. And it said, we want to be in partnership with you, but we need you to pay your rent immediately. And we're all in this together, but could you pay right now? And I posed the question to him. I said, what are you bringing to this partnership? If this is a 2-way street, what's your contribution? Because mine's to pay the rent, apparently. What's yours?
It's like these people that say we're all in this together and then do nothing about it, don't they? It's all very well having the slogans on the wall, but unless your actions also back it up, you're better off not saying it at all.
Yeah, coming back to the supplier point, so landlords is a really interesting one, but the thing is you can make progress there. And one thing which might have passed a lot of people by is I believe that the grants for hospitality, retail and leisure, estate agents are eligible for.
Okay.
Now,
that's really interesting.
I didn't know this, but I've now applied for a grant for every single one of our site, and I did this on the same Wednesday, which will total to probably $100,000 plus in actual cash.
So talk us through why you are now eligible for that and how that applies.
Because again, I've lost track of time, but whatever date it was, which I think was like last Thursday, Friday, so about a week ago, the business rates decision was changed to include estate agents. Yeah. And so when you go onto the website, and I was on Sheffield City Council's website looking at their criteria for this particular grant, they said that you have to have got the business rates relief and that was, so you had to be a small business, you had to have a rateable value of this, it's delivered through the rates agreement, but you also have to tick this. And then when I went on to the government document, which again I can send you the link to, estate agents are now on that document.
Yes.
And therefore, I believe that because we've now qualified for rates relief, we now also qualify for the grants. Now, I've submitted the applications for, God, how many sites? Anyways, 6 out of 8 or something like that. There were 2 which I haven't done. And all of them, it was a simple online process. And
that's the 25,000 grant, is that correct?
10K to 25K. So if your rateable value is above £20,000 for the unit, then it's 25. And if your rateable value is less than 10K, and the way that I read it is it's per site.
Right.
So if you have got 8 branches, that is 8 times that grant, which would make sense because it's per business unit which is operating. But it's delivered by, so what you need is you need your rates bill. So you go onto the local council website. It's all following the same format. It's an online process. You'll do it in 10 minutes.
Wow.
I think we've already had ours through. We pay, I think, effectively close to nothing in terms of rates because obviously we have a smaller premises, so the rateable value is lower. So I think we'd only be eligible for 10,000. But there are, I know, estate agencies with huge rates bills. They were looking for that 25,000, and I heard of one. There's an agency called James Neve. I think they're in Walton upon Thames somewhere. And so Andy confirmed that he received his yesterday. Yeah, so it's starting to come through now.
Okay, cool.
So you should get your payments through soon.
Mint. We'll wait and see.
Is there enough support in terms of clarifying all this stuff? I mean, is it really a case? You mentioned that it was last week, Ian. Is it a real challenge to try to get to the bottom of it, or is there support on the end of a line if you need it?
I mean, I'm working 12 to 14 hours a day at the moment, just on this stuff, trying to map the impacts and understand what we're doing, communicating with our customers, communicating with our staff. So is there enough support? I mean, you've got to be on it. No one's going to do it for you. We're all independent business owners. But, being members of things like the Property Academy Group and I'm sure, the network which you run as well, means that you can pool stuff. And, and I have definitely missed stuff. I've definitely missed stuff, which I picked up off other people, like the business rate stuff and these grants and things. So is there enough support? I mean, I think, again, if I'm totally honest, I think the government's done a great job. I think given, the speed at which they've worked and the furlough scheme in particular, I mean, just imagine if they hadn't done that.
I'm famously a champagne socialist, and I found it really awkward at the moment to criticise them, which has, cut off a lot of my oxygen. But we were talking about it on the show yesterday, actually, with Ryan from Leader Fox, and he was saying his perception was, because we were talking why hadn't there been a run on the banks and everything else, but it was done just at the right time, just as panic was starting to increase, brought in, and genuinely that has taken all of the stress out of it, hasn't it? What we have to deal with on the other side is frankly a problem for another day, but you can only deal with what's in front of you, can't you?
Exactly. And I think they've done a phenomenal job. But the consequence of that and how that relates back to what we're talking about is that it's not like they've had time to issue very clear guidance to every single sector, pointing everyone in exactly the right direction. The time, everything's moving so quickly. So is there enough support? Yeah, probably, but you've got to work to find it.
And in that respect, we are all in it together, and everybody just needs to pull together to share as much info as they possibly can from the government downwards. And I think that's really happening.
Yeah, as long as you don't share this with Mark Manning.
Never heard of the guy. Don't worry.
I'll block him on Facebook now, Ian. You'll get that.
Hey, no, on a serious note, we spoke to each other actually a couple of times during this.
I think that's good, isn't it? I mean, what a lot of people. I mean, David, you said on the show last week you'd picked up or at least you'd written to your nearest competitor and just said, "Look, if there is anything we can do to help out," I think that is one of the nicest features.
I didn't get a response.
Did you not?
Okay. I didn't get a response, which tells me that they don't bear a grudge. So
you must have done something really wrong. Ian, as well, SJ was talking, are there lettings opportunities out there? You've mentioned obviously just the ability of going back to landlords, but is there actually is there lettings business to be won at the moment, or?
Yeah, in short, yes. So we're still moving people in. So you've got to be really clear on the rules. So the first thing is that we have a social responsibility to make sure that we don't do things which endanger the lives of customers, society at large,
Yeah.
or our staff. So, let's get that totally clear. But the government has made clear in the guidance which they've issued that we can move people into vacant properties as long as households are not crossing over.
Yeah.
Now that's particularly prevalent in two areas, which is land and new homes completions, where often they're first-time buyers buying a vacant property, no household crossover. There might be some logistical difficulties in terms of removal firms, although there are still some working in our area. And then also in lettings, where we've often got vacant properties.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking wildly diminished volume, but where we've got vacant properties, it's still possible to transact.
And I noticed on your website, you're big fans of property launches, and I see you've got one going live again in 13 hours. So, look, I'm guessing you're going to be running to the end of those, but there is still even a smattering of business there on the sales side of things.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we did 2 deals this week in our York office, which were landlord to landlord sales.
Yeah.
So, if you've got good people, and we've furloughed a huge percentage of our staff, but the people which we retained were the total savage deal makers, like the complete nut jobs of our business.
Do you mind me asking, Ian, kind of what percentage it is? Because we've been trying to get a feeling from everyone who comes on. Have you done 80-20? Is it that or harsher?
It's probably, but we're going further now. So as of this morning, we're furloughing even more. There's ultimately a calculation between how much business can someone generate versus how much does it cost to have them working, and it's literally as simple as that. And when the scales sort of tip, so we had initially 9. So we had a reactive team. So we've got 4 teams. One team is reactive, so handling all of the inbound stuff, and they're branch managers and valuers, highly experienced people who could handle stuff from other offices. Not green people. That team's now reduced down to 7. They're operating 7 days a week from 8 in the morning till 8 p.m, 9 till 5 on a Saturday and Sunday. So that we've got broad coverage for our customers. We've got a proactive team, which I've mentioned, and they're being the people generating the leads for protection. We've got the mortgage team who are writing the leads for protection and doing the remortgages. And then we've got property management. And so that's basically what we've got left. But we just gradually start to reduce both the mortgage team and the proactive team as we've started to work through the data. And we wrote a lot of business to begin with, and gradually that's tailing off.
Of course, yeah, of course. I mean, I was talking to a business, not a bit further afield, up north. We've got 20 odd offices, and they had seen this, I think, a little bit further ahead than most, and they had plan A, plan B. If it's this bad, these are the staff that will go. Plan B, when it hits this stage, they're going to get rid of these ones, all the way kind of down. What they did say, and just to me on your point before, was as soon as the furloughing scheme came out, that was kind of all out the window because they just went down to the nth degree. And it does allow you to have that as long as, it's the best chance for survival for the business, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I couldn't agree more. We again went through exactly the same process where we were like, right, okay, immediately we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, then we do that. I mean, the calculation which everyone's going to have to make, which is not easy to do, is how much money am I going to lose once I bring everyone back?
Yes.
Because I'll have diminished revenue
before that comes in.
Correct.
Yeah.
And how long will my cash last me? And how much of a loss am I going to run it at? And I think anyone who is not planning on making permanent cuts either has a lot of money in the bank, or is prepared. They're going to have a lot of money in the bank. It's as simple as that. Because if any business running at scale, our cost base runs at sort of £350,000 to £360,000 a month.
Yeah.
You've got to sell a lot of houses to cover that. So it'll be £1 million we'll be into it just in the first 3 months.
That's a really interesting point, because I see a lot of the chatter that you see at the moment on forums. Yes, everyone's talking about furloughing, how it's saving their asses now, but in terms of there's a lot of short-term thinking going on there. Nobody's talking about the amount of cash that they're going to have to stockpile to get through the 3 or 4 months after furloughing ends, and that's I think that reality will eventually hit home. We've been given a breather, and then people are going to have to really look at making long-term cuts.
You made the point as well, David, yesterday that most businesses actually go out of business at the end of recessions rather than at the start of recessions, or it might have been John actually. And that's it's that point, isn't it? At the very point you need to, you've made you think you've made all the tough decisions, you've got through to the end, but then you can't resource up enough, can you, to take advantage?
Yeah, and that's what they were saying. I think about the Italian and Korean estate agents. So in terms of people that have been, and certainly in China as well, if you look at the property businesses, if they've got through the main sort of hit of COVID, obviously Italy isn't, but if you look at what's happening in South Korea, for instance, you need to be able to see it through this period and to get to the end of it, but you also need to have some sort of cash flow at the end of it, because we all work on pipelines, and if your pipeline is dead in 3 months' time, it's going to take you at least 3 to 6 months to build any kind of cash flow back up again.
Can I ask you on that basis, Ian? If that is the case, do you think that Rightmove are going to have to do more than the 75% offer at the end of the 4 months, or do you think it's fanciful that it's going to be, okay, we're going straight up to 100%?
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to. I mean, I haven't engaged much with the whole Rightmove, anti-Rightmove thing. I've had some very frank conversations with them personally over the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And I've been, not in any kind of prophetic way, but I've been warning them about a tipping point which will occur, because they have no goodwill. And last year, we were being massively fucked over by Brexit, and as a business, and they came to me with, whatever percentage increase they came to me with, and I explained to them, I said, this increase will cost someone their job, and which person do you think should lose their job? And I posed that question to them, and I pointed out to the office outside me and said, which one would you get rid of? And they said, the one which handles the leads the worst, was the answer which came back.
Who does their PR? It's fucking, it's unbelievable.
So anyway, a debate ensued from there. And I said to them, I said, listen, you have no, people like me have been a champion of Rightmove.
That's why I asked, Ian, because I know you've been really harsh, but you always are. You're harsh but fair with all suppliers, and you will lay it down straight. And I know that you're not one of those people that's going to just, is taking the opportunity to, to have a dig. It will be for the best of reasons, and that's why I was really keen to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is they have no goodwill of their customer base. So even people like me who think that fundamentally it still represents better value for money than the newspapers used to. And again, for those people who haven't been in this industry for long enough, I remember in 1999, the journal Homemaker in Newcastle upon Tyne was £2,000 for a page of advertising.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a static piece of advertising that you had to put in, and that was per week, right? Per week. So every week, that's £8,000 a month. Now, and so we need to remember where we came from. So £2,000 or £1,500 or whatever you pay for Rightmove for an entire month to have all of your properties advertised in real time with bells and whistles and adverts is not bad value for money. It still isn't. But they've just fucked over their customers, and their customers hate them. And the moment that their customers get an opportunity to stick it to them, they will.
Ian, you're on one of Peter's groups, as we mentioned, and I am, and I can't remember the speaker, but they definitely did a breakdown of why people leave businesses, and this is businesses in general. And it never is price, perversely. Actually, I mean, that's a factor in there. The most common reason why people leave any business is because they perceive that they don't care about their customer anymore. And it's not so obvious.
Shit.
Yeah,
my opinion matters nothing to Rightmove.
Yeah,
they without any shadow of doubt, my thoughts, feelings is there is no partnership, there is no back and forth, there's no compromise. It's edicts given out, and fundamentally, people who've decided to set up their own businesses are independent-minded, and this is why people waste their time on social media complaining about Rightmove, because they feel passionately about it. But I need to remind them that they are wasting their time. The real battle is at the moment working out what you're going to do in July through till December, and don't worry about Rightmove, because Rightmove will do what Rightmove can do. Hopefully they've realised that actually they're going to have a proactive effort of getting customers back on site, and that will involve, you know, making sure that they properly dig deep for the next 9 months to you know, to try and build some goodwill, because goodwill
they need to, they call them account managers, but they need to practice what they preach there, don't they? They need to manage those accounts and look after their clients.
And my account manager's great. She's lovely. She's really nice. And you know, I feel bad for giving her a hard time, but you know, the fundamental thing is that they have no power, and the people who do have the power don't call me because they don't care about my business.
That's right. So just going back to that, the point we started on then, Ian, with the financial services department and that's been a ray of light for you, has it, at this time, really?
It has. I mean, you know, if I was a cricketer, which I'm not, I would not be a great defensive specialist. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't just sit there padding it away.
Boycott.
Not me. No, you know, I'm someone who likes to go for sixes. Do you know what I mean? I'm a 20-20 man. And my team are, because, you know, they're recruited for that passion and that hunger and that ability to go for something. So to give them something to go at as much as anything, to have a battle to fight and win right now, which we can actually go for, makes a big difference to you know, to the morale. And we do a daily conference call every morning. The whole company is invited, those are furloughed, those who are not furloughed.
Oh, great. Good.
And we have a Q&A at the end of it, where so I give everyone an update, and it's total transparency, just to be clear. You know, I talk about the cost cuts, I talk about the furlough decisions, I talk about the conversations we're having with the bank, the whole job lot, and then anyone in the company can ask me questions about what we're doing. And I've also got one for our sellers, actually. So I'm doing a weekly one for sellers and for landlords. So at 2 o'clock, I've got our landlord one. And so, you know, that sort of stuff is really, really, really important to just keep the morale going, because at the end of this, a bit like Rightmove need their agents, you know, Preston Baker, you know, we need our team, and we need to be hungry and going for stuff. So that's the big value of the FS project, to be honest. It's not necessarily the cash that it generates. It's the fact that we've got something to not just be adopting a sort of like, you know, lying on the floor, taking the beating. We've actually got an opportunity to fight back.
I think it's been fascinating. Thank you for being so open and honest with us, to be honest, Ian. It's really, really refreshing to hear.
Really helpful.
You know, there's a lot of really good stuff you've discussed with us there. I wish you all the very best, and thanks for taking the time out.
Pleasure. Okay, gents.
Thanks, Ian. Take care.
Thanks all. See you, David. See you next week.
Cheers, Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.